Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the Seven Frequenceas.
Episode 2.
Today we'll be talking about film. Freddie, we need your input.
Yay! I love film, me. Love going to the movies.
Honestly, yeah.
Okay, let's do a roll call actually, because it's a different.
Should we just say who's in the room again?
It's a different setup.
Okay. Hi, I'm Amelie. I was here last episode. Lovely to be back and talk some more.
Hi, I'm Carl. I'm not part of the main Seven Frequenceas team, but I'm here as a special guest.
Whoop whoop.
Woo! Woo!
Not dragged here by me.
Definitely not forced.
Absolutely not coerced. Anyway, I'm Hyein, and I'm back again from the first episode. I'm no longer in the mixing booth, but in the recording booth, which is very, very exciting. This is really weird also.
Yeah.
It's really distracting actually. Anyway.
I'm Kit. I was also here last week, and I'm back to discuss films.
The vibes are off today.
The vibes
What
are
is
so
going
off.
on?
Hi.
We need Fredi back.
I'm Charis, and I wasn't there last week, sadly, but I'm here today.
Yay!
Yeah, and I'm really excited to get in and discuss film.
Right, I'm Freddie, and I'm behind the computer this time, which is, I feel, very important and powerful. I'm also not very well, so if my voice sounds gross, then that's why. But yeah, also looking forward to discussing the topic of the week.
Hello, I'm Serena. I'm also behind the mixing booth, or I am at the mixing booth today. Woo, with Freddie. That is all. I'm excited to speak about films.
Yay!
Start by talking about like the importance of non-Eurocentric films.
That would be
like,
good.
with the influence of Hollywood, like. And
That's so good,
you
Freddie.
know,
Thank you.
English,
We can segue
English
in.
cinema, like
Yeah.
it's really difficult. Well, it's not really difficult, but it's like rare to not see, you know, the things that you want to see. And I feel like we're so led by the actors that we like, as opposed to trying to like expose ourselves to different stories. You know, like I know Amelie was talking about how
Yes,
the
I was.
casting of what's his name.
Oh my god, okay. Sorry guys. This has like been like my rant for like months. The casting of Jacob Elordi in Wuthering Heights
my God,
has
yeah.
been like pissing me off.
Yeah.
Because I think I didn't even realize like that the character of Heathcliff was not Caucasian until I read the book, because all of like the past adaptations of this book that have been made into films, like most of them, Heathcliff has been played by like a Caucasian actor. So I can really hear my voice now. That's weird. But I think it was just disappointing to see that like we're in 2026 in a progressive era, and you know the film's being directed by someone who I thought had like a very, you know, quirky, modern, I don't know, like kind of directorial, creative, I don't know, vibe. So to just see like that she kind of casted people who like A-listers that we all know and see all the time in like a period sort of setting, especially when it's not culturally accurate, was just very frustrating to see, because it very much disregards kind of like, I feel like, the plot of the story, because Heathcliff isn't like in the book Heathcliff is such an arse and a dislikable person because, and he's such a like a monster, I guess, because of all of like the racial discrimination he faced as a child sort of leads him to be this very like angry character. So I don't know, I just that really annoyed me, because it just sort of got rid of like erasing erasing a person of color within fiction.
Sorry, guys.
For the sake of entertaining an audience.
Mm.
Yeah.
Valid point.
And I feel like that kind of aspect of like celebrity amongst in the kind of like acting sphere like makes it that's what you go to see films for, and that's what a lot of people are like drawn to, rather than, you know, like I said, like a variety of people's life stories and stuff. And like there's whole, I know Sanaa was talking a lot about Bollywood, and like that's a whole massive industry that I've never even, you know, seen a second of, never mind a full film in a cinema. So yeah, I feel like it's very important for us creative folk to try and like get as much of a variety of cultures of films as possible, really, isn't it? So yeah,
we could talk about our course and what has annoyed us, I guess, about potentially like certain elements of not seeing like beyond what we would expect to see. I don't know, the different films that are included on the module, in the modules, or like, I don't know whether anyone would be up.
I mean, I feel like in like academic film, we're exposed to a lot of, well, Eurocentric media, I guess, as in a lot of American films, a lot of British films, or if it's not one of those two, it's French or Italy, Germany, and then I think, well, for example, this week for film we had Parasite, which is obviously a Korean film, but even that is like one of the most American acclimated Korean film, if that makes sense. It's not like one that is unheard of or niche in any way. And I feel like especially to a course of such a diverse range of people, and when we're learning about being like interdisciplinary, just like the text that we could study could be a lot more, we could learn a lot more about different cultures, and we're not.
Also, like, considering that like half of the course is from China, like you'd think that we'd have access to like some, you know, Chinese films maybe.
I think we're talking about that in terms of like initially when we were discussing creative education, I think. I don't know whether you have an input on that, Carl, but like when we were initially discussing like everything in relation to education, we were talking about like how does the course that's created reflect its students, and like Fredi, what you were saying, like how could it be informed by like the voices of students and the ideas and like likes or dislikes of the students to like then form or change for the future, so that it is more reflective.
I also think, considering the point of our course is that it's the theory influences the practice. When people go to make a film, they obviously are probably going to want to make a film that reflects a part of their own culture and their own lived experience. And if all of the theory that you've been learning is about European lived experience, then you know that's not great. That doesn't set you up very well. You know, you need to see. I think that's kind of just representation, really, isn't it? But like, you need to see yourself represented to know that you can represent yourself a lot of the time.
No, because even in like the film screening we watched, like our film screening the other day, a lot of the films that were made by like the Chinese students were obviously set in China, and they were speaking Chinese, and it was like completely understandable by an audience that didn't speak Chinese, I feel. So it's like stuff like that, it can be so easily inputted into our course, especially because it is a course that is always changing and always adapting to its students and to like the current like cultural background or whatever of the world. So I feel like it's just something that's so easily can be changed, and yet would change a lot in terms of what we study and what we can gather from it.
Yeah, so true.
Also, like,
Sanaa has just entered the room.
Sanaa's entered the chat.
So now we're going to talk about the film that a few of us have watched. Okay, Carl, why don't you start us off?
All right. I saw the film with what's the name of your group? Creativity and Eurocentrism. Right.
Whatever
say
it's
Seven.
called.
Yeah.
Just say Seven Frequenceas.
Basically, I saw the film,
What's the film called?
The Voice of
Hind
Hind
Rajab.
Yeah.
The Voice of Hind Rajab, and I found it was quite a depressing watch, not gonna lie. It's one of these films which do not offer you like a positive Hollywood ending, where everything just resolves and everyone lives happily ever after. It's the type of film that like makes you think a lot about the world and current political situation in the world right now. And I think just having this film conveyed from the people who actually experience this type of conflict in their daily life is the thing that's most important in this film. So we don't see the Hollywood version, I don't know, of another culture. We see the struggles from the people there. And I think because of that, it's so much more powerful, because it almost feels like a literal cry for help. And yeah, that's very powerful. It was very powerful. Yeah.
Sorry, can we get like a plot summary of the film or like
Alright.
themes?
So the film was about emergency services that tried to save a girl from the area that had like a shooting in there, and
It's
it's
like
really
based on a true story, and they use like the actual footage of the girl on the call. So yeah, I thought that's very important because that's what makes it so impactful.
I mean, I don't think I even saw it as a film. It was more of a way of like archiving true events. So, I mean, you know, it's structured around a real life recording of a real life call that happened in real life. And it was
real,
really
guys,
it was real, yeah. But it's like it's hard to believe because it's interesting because it's separated by this like barrier that's a phone call. Like this situation is so distant, but it's so close because it's like a little girl and it's her cry for help. But anyway, because this film was like structured around real life events, it just, and like even the moments in between, there's a bit of speculation about the individual reactions of the people present in like on site in the Red Crescent Center. But like, I don't know, it's like, it's more of a reenactment. I felt like it's not really fiction. It's closer to like a documentary or like a I don't know, yeah, it felt like an archiving of a moment, so, and in a way that can be like disseminated to like a wider audience, and like so that they can reach a more diverse and like broad audience as well. But Serena and I were talking about like sort of the cinematography as well. There were really like impactful shots of I mean, Serena can also talk about it, but there was a lot of like reflections playing around. There's a really nice shot where it's like three people. There's a man on a call on the phone with a girl, and then reflections of the emergency, like the other workers, and they sort of like overlap in a really poetic way. It's like three different reflections like converging and like splitting apart, and there's a lot of that they play with because like they draw stuff on like glass, and like it's kind of hard to explain, I guess, like without actually for people who haven't watched the entire film, but like I thought it was really poetic as well. But then also like within that it goes in and out of the footage, like the real footage, it ends up merging the two, and then there's sections where you see the real people, and then it's almost like like a mirror falls, and it's like the actors as well, so it's blending like fact and fiction completely.
I agree, and especially on the question of cinematography. There was like a shot where in the end where it was revealed that they didn't manage to save the girl, and because of some bureaucratic issues and because of the fact that the ambulance was shot, and the shot basically incorporates these elements of real videography and the embodied one, and you can see how the shot basically showed that this indeed happened in real life, that these characters that we see on the screen are actually real people who worried about saving the girl for like 8 hours straight. And just seeing this together, this shot kind of allowed to break from this element of fiction and bring this work predominantly as a documentary, even though it's embodied kind of fiction. It showed that in reality, the whole story that happened was the real thing, and is not really a lie. But yeah.
And it feels like we're repeating the word like real a lot, but it's like I don't, for me, like I don't really see any other way of like putting it. It's because it's like, I don't know, you're sort of sitting there and you're watching the screen and you're sat still, and it's like all these things have happened and it's happening in front of your eyes, but it's like a weird sort of dissonance that you feel. It's, yeah, so like I don't know, I feel the need to like say like it was real, but like it was. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, like I think I used to describe it like a second ago as like fiction, but like fact versus fiction, but it's not really fiction. Like it's very much a real story that obviously is being recreated through, yeah, like what you said, re-embodied. Yeah, and like to just, I think it's almost to make it real for the viewers, like for them to physically understand it as a real event rather than like, I think there was a quote in it about just seeing it on social media. It's hard to like understand that these things are real and happening without being able to see them like in front of you. And it's almost like forcing that reality, like allowing people to understand that this is happening, and like we're allowing it to happen almost.
I think, can I say, sorry, I feel like that's kind of that's a helpful part of film as a way of like spreading awareness of things, is that it focuses so heavily on individual people's experiences, which I think is so much easier to empathise with than the news's presentation of things that are happening, which is just numbers and statistics and graphs. Like I feel like when you see someone's story and you become so like close with it, you really develop like a, you know, I've already said empathy, but an empathy and a kind of sensitivity, which I think is important to have, and a lot of the time is kind of taken away from you with social media and stuff. So
yeah, so just wanted to add as well, because I think in our age, with all the social media kind of happening and all this overwhelmed by the content, we don't have the time to do like research. So when we have a film saying that, oh, it's based on real life, we almost disregard it in a way, because we're not following up to that, we're not doing the research, unless we really like moved by film, or unless it's like something happened to be according to our interest. But I think with this film, it just pushes this idea of reality and research back at you. It doesn't tell us to go, oh, do your own work, do your own research, and like understand the context behind it. It just puts everything in front of you, all the context, all the research that you need to know, all the context, instead of assigning homework to the audience, which I found quite effective, especially for the type of audience that coming to like cinema. They are here just to see film. So when you have this, as Hyein said, this break from the fiction into how to say it, when you have this break of fiction, this effect of just shocking audience, I think that's what makes this film so powerful. Is it acknowledges the context, it inserts this context right in front of the audience, allowing them to kind of just deal with it, instead of, as I said, going home, doing the homework. It stays, this type of film stays longer, because again, it puts everything in front of you, and you don't need to do any extra work. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was an experience, guys. It was like sort of, it wasn't actually like unfolding in real, it like the length of the film didn't match like the length like of the time that passed within what was shown in the film, but like it felt like it. Guys, we were crying. We started crying like, I don't know when, but then the tears did not stop.
Yeah, my dad was saying when he saw it at the film festival, he had to like sit in a park for about 2 hours afterwards and just like process it, because it's, I mean, I think particularly what people were saying about like the cinematography, it does like immerse you so much in this perspective of the like workers who are like helping out, and it's hard to almost like not be pulled into it and like completely empathize with what's happening, because all the devices are there to
I was gonna add that I think for me, like, I mean, I kind of only got into film in general last year, I would say, in terms of like as a possible profession or something like that. But this was one of the first films I had seen in a while where I did not keep track of any possible like cinematography. Oh, they did this well. They like, I think it was the first time in a while that I was just like feeling the film in its emotional capacity. Like, yeah, I was just crying.
I think though, like, doing a film degree, like, I think I often think about what am I doing, and then that film almost shows exactly why I want to do film, because of how powerful it is. Like what Carl was saying, like, it allows something that people might not seek out to be condensed and understood in like film format. Because like if you choose to not engage with it, you won't engage with it. So putting it all out and laying it all out there, you instantly, you completely understand the context and what's happening. And
I was just going to add, I feel like that, like we're kind of talking about like active versus passive viewing, and I think it's quite a kind of Eurocentric, if you will, kind of form of entertainment is the type that you can have on in the background. And obviously as much as there are some very emotional and complex films from Europe, like I feel like especially nowadays, people, I've seen stuff about people, directors and writers are simplifying storylines so that we can scroll like while we're watching, so that it's easier to follow. And I think the sort of film that you're talking about is really important to keep those alive, like the ones that you really have to immerse yourself in. And also that's like so much the importance of the cinema as well, is that like you can't look away, you can't go on your phone, like you have to like sit with what you're seeing. And especially when it's something that's really real and current, those sorts of films need to be shown in cinemas and need to be present.
I'm gonna gently disagree with the first part of what you said. I don't know what exactly you said, but like about it being Eurocentric, because I would say in terms of like Bollywood, everyone thinks of it as like this like musical-esque, very fun, loving enjoyment. And in the mainstream, like, it is a lot of that, and that's because of the audience it caters to, because in, like, India, most people probably want to go to the cinema for enjoyment. Like, there's just generally, like, they're not going to, like, really be impacted by a story because their lives might be hard enough, Like, yeah, it's kind of like I'm generalizing on a very large scale, which is wrong of me, but like that's the reason some of the the essence of the industry, it kind of hasn't moved on, because the audience primarily goes to enjoy in the cinema.
I think by Eurocentric, I was just kind of meaning Hollywood, which is like the same thing. Like Hollywood stories are so like, and they all lived happily ever after type thing. So,
it's been a really interesting debate over the last few years of like, how do we get people back into cinemas? And it's always like, oh, we make films really happy, we make them really like the classic Hollywood film, like the big blockbusters. And then it's like, I guess, on the contrary to what I was saying in terms of like, oh, it's a really good example of a film where like, even if you don't have any context, obviously you can come in and understand it, but then who's going to see it? I think is like another a big question in that sense. But like, yeah, like obviously to people who know the context, probably they're more likely to go and see it. Like I had known about the film, so like therefore I kind of suggested it on that because I want more people to know about it. I want more people to see it, and I think it's an important film for people to see. But like without people who know about the context, I don't know who's going to see the film. And obviously I think we were talking about the Oscars. I can't remember who I was talking to about that, but the fact that it's nominated for an Oscar, therefore probably that's a good thing. But obviously that's still, again, like Hollywood, but it will probably get more people to see it.
It'll definitely get more
yeah
reach.
it'll get more people to see it, but like
it won as well
what are the
in its category, Best International.
has the Oscars been?
When was the Oscars?
Did it not win? Am I tweaking?
The Grammys just happened.
The Grammys happened. When did the Oscars happen?
I swear
The Oscars
it
haven't
won.
happened
Oh,
yet.
fuck.
Sana's predicting. Sana predicts.
Prediction.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, I hope it will.
It's on the 15th of March.
okay.
Yeah.
Scratch that.
A
To
month
the
away.
16th of March,
I was about to be
UK
like,
time.
Have I completely missed like a whole? But yeah.
That's why Sanaa was late. She was just at the Oscars. And
Yeah,
she
I
saw
have
what
the
happened.
inside
Yeah.
information.
It's airing on the 15th of March, but it has just happened.
Yeah,
at Sanaa's.
Sanaa was there.
She
Exactly.
came back and asked, "What's the date today?"
Yeah.
The
No, but
exact date.
I agree on like what Kit is saying and Fredi as well. Like I love the cinema, guys. I feel like I kind of forgot how much I love the cinema until one time, I don't know, I went like on my own a couple of years back and I came out being like, whoa, I've like completely forgotten what a good experience sort of being in the cinema is. And I think something like creating a film like that about such a powerful and real story, there are so many times that the similar stories get posted online on like social media platforms, but they just get ignored because people just don't want to put in the effort to like care about it, or they don't want to like feel that emotion right now, you know. But then doing it in like a cinematic form makes it like so that people who are going know what, first of all, they know what they're going to see, and second of all, it's just such a great way of telling such an important and real story, but put into this form of like a cinema, like a film. It makes it so that people are more inclined to watch it and more inclined to listen to the plot just because they've put it in this structure and they've screened it in a cinema. And I think, for example, there's something to be said about the marketing of these films, because although it's like Oscar nominated, I didn't know about it until Kit mentioned it, and then I found out it was nominated for an Oscar. So I was like, whoa, that's so crazy, because to me I was like, oh, Kit just found some like niche unknown film, but it's like well, you know, it's like well known enough to have been nominated for the Oscars. But clearly I don't know, either it hasn't been on my algorithm or it hasn't been advertised as much as a film, say like Wuthering Heights, which ever since they've started promoting it, I've been seeing it like everywhere on my social media, and also just like on the London tubes, on the buses, like walking around London, you see that poster everywhere now, like the past week. And so I feel like it's also a choice of its marketing team and the promoting team and the place you're living in, maybe, of how that film gets recognized.
I think algorithms are a really interesting thing in relation to this, because, I mean, personally, with this particular story, I watched it unfold, like, on my social media. So I knew about it simply because I saw it happening. Like, in the film, they talk about the main character, the main man in the film. There's a moment where there's a social media woman next to him, and she's filming what's unfolding effectively, filming the call, filming the workers, and he's like, what does this actually do? Like, people are watching like passively, almost like this will be posted on social media, but what can people actually do? Like, what is the point of social media? What's the point of posting? And yeah, it's like when you have those things on your algorithm, you feel absolutely powerless because you see them and you can't do any. Well, there's stuff you can do, but like to an extent, because obviously, like, I don't know, like.
It's a whole other thing.
Yeah, yeah, but like I simply knew about the film because of my algorithm. But actually, it's really interesting what you said about like the marketing of Wuthering Heights, for example. And I think there's obviously something about money and the amount of money that production probably has to market, so they can spend a lot of money on promoting it on buses, in tubes, etc. But also how it would be incredibly. It shouldn't be controversial if the Voice of Hind Rajab were to be like advertised in a tube, but it might be perceived that way stupidly. But it would cause controversy even in its public presence, which is, crazy. But there's something to be said there.
Yeah, because I also have another question about that film is, was it only being screened at the BFI or like other cinemas?
Lots of other cinemas.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to add about like the algorithm bit. I think when I was watching the film, I felt very called out because during that one bit, they talk about how in general the world is like desensitized to what you see on your feed. And well, I feel like at some point a lot of people have like either scrolled past something or switched off your phone, and it's like, well, it's like not even exactly your fault because what else can you do? But it's just the way they portrayed that. It's like it kind of calls you out in a way that, oh, this is very much real. It's not just on your screen, and it was very effective personally for me.
Yeah.
No, I think the algorithm thing is a difficult situation because it's a situation where if you then interact with the content,
you get more.
All the content you get is that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people use social media as a way of like, finding escape from like, for like funny things or for joy. And then obviously it's not a type of thing where you want at the end of your day to scroll and all you scroll is this content. But at the same time, it's like you want to engage with it. It's just a difficult conundrum of if you want that to be on this platform. And that's why I think, for example, using it as a cinema, like a film platform is so good because it separates it from other aspects of your life. Whereas on social media, it's like once it's there, it's there.
Yeah. I mean, I personally went off Instagram. Like, I can't go back on it because I like...
Me too.
I can't... The amount of stuff that I see, like, on a daily basis, I just can't cope with it. And that's, it sounds like it's not stupid. It's not like, but because I'm obviously not directly impacted by it, but to see what like gets posted without being in like corresponding with my specific algorithm, like it gets to a point where you just can't cope with it. And there is something to be said of like, yeah, like you can switch off completely. Like I get rid of Instagram every now and then, like I suspend my account simply because like there are periods of time where I don't want to, I just can't physically cope with seeing that completely. But yeah, like what we were saying about the film, it does, I think as well, like some of the things that are posted on social media are completely unbearable to look at. For example, the specific types of things which are posted. There's not a nice way of putting it other than like it's hard to see, but when you put it in a specific film context, it allows the story to be understood in a different way that's not just looking at people's dead bodies, for example. You see the emotion and you can emotionally understand it without seeing the end of these people's lives. You see, the lead up to it and understand the emotion behind the context, but those people don't just become another picture of someone who's died. Like, like it's a good way to emotionally understand it without being so overwhelming.
Yeah.
I knew what happened to him like before, like I'd known, like I'd seen posts of it then as well, but there is like a universality to, you know, films like The Voice of Hind Rajab, where it's very like grounded in a specific location and a situation and a climate, but it's like the breakdown of bureaucracy and like just messiness of like being like a human despite like being in face of all these horrible things happening around you. Don't know where I was going with this really, but it's like but there's like a universality to these like films that runs like a common thread.
I also think like with the cinema as a form of watching this stuff, it's like, as you guys mentioned, it gives you time afterwards to just sort of sit with your thoughts and process it and think about it, whereas if it's just on your like social media feed, it can be so jarring if you're watching a video and it's very sort of heartbreaking, very serious content, and then you scroll and it's like the stupidest thing you've ever seen, and it's like a very jarring mixture because it's unfiltered and it's so vast, the way like the content that you can get online. So it's just, I feel like there's this interesting thing to think about with like mediums and how important topics can be communicated through these different mediums.
Yeah, it's
And,
like you go. No.
Like the idea of like digestibility, I don't know if that's a word, but like things on social media are meant to be digestible, and like the tragic suffering of like entire nations is never going to be digestible. And so of course it's not that you don't want to see people suffering, it's that you don't want to see it in that format that like doesn't compute with you properly, and films like these are a much more effective way of, you know, communicating those things.
I feel like, it's also more effective to get people to actually act because they have the proper amount of time to think about it and reflect on it.
It's like being
so
guided
true.
with the emotions as
if you
well.
have a
that's
minute
what it
to
is.
think about something, you're never gonna like do anything about it.
Yeah.
A lot of people say like we're obsessed with phones and all that kind of stuff, but it feels like, at least like within the circle right now, from what I'm hearing, we're being overcrowded, overwhelmed with information to the point where like we're actually going back to the cinema as a refuge, because like it allows us to be so concentrated on this like one moment, one block of time, like 2 hours or whatever. So hopefully this will become a more common phenomenon.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
I can think that like humanity is like lost and that like my life is terrible, and then I go to the cinema and I'm like, there it is, you know.
It's also like, not to say that social media isn't a good way of advocating, because it definitely is. I think it's just, I don't want to say it's become a trend, but it's once one person started doing it, everyone started doing it, and it's really hard to keep up with all these different platforms, because it's not only about like bringing awareness to these group of people, but it's also like I often see stuff like stay so I can like earn money because someone I'm close to has cancer, or like my like cat shelter is closing down, and it's like once you get so many of these videos, it's really hard to keep up, because once one person sees that it's working, everyone wants to do it, and it just gets so overwhelming.
It's hard to cope with, especially when there's so much going on in the world. There's so many different conflicts, there's so many different like things that people are having to cope with across different contexts. You know, there's local contexts in the UK, and then there's all the different wars abroad. So it's, social media can become, like what you're saying, very like overwhelming, and it's hard to know like what to focus on, for example.
It's also like sometimes the unreliability of it as well. Like it's not that, because so many people can use it for the wrong reasons, and it's sometimes hard, especially with like AI, to figure out what you can trust.
Also, just people just saying completely like lying blatantly, and just because they've got that platform of like the blue tick, for example, or like being in a position of power, they're just able to say these things. I think especially with this conflict, I have to say, with there have been things that have been said on government social media accounts, just blatant lies, and they can get away with it because it's a social media context. There's no what's the word? there's no like monitoring of what's said. Obviously, like with general media in general, like there's been less of a dissection of these things, and people were just able to get away with posting these types of things because like they're not being held to account effectively. My brain's not working.
Yeah,
very
no,
well,
it can be damaging if you hear the wrong news. Because also if people are like, for example, it's like, oh, I heard this from this, and they're like, what's your source? And you say like TikTok, for example, no one can trust that your source is correct. And that can then do the complete opposite and affect the situation negatively.
But it's also about the algorithms as well.
Yeah.
Like which angle you see these things.
Yeah. Should we move on to a more general topic? If Amelie wants to start us off.
I was just going to say with AI, it's so unreliable and it's so manipulative. I'm not going to lie. Last year, I was convinced that a comet was going to hit us in 2028 and we were all going to die because at the moment it was still orbiting. Yeah, that's just good to show how scary it is.
I saw some AI about Donald Trump the other day. A photo of Donald Trump and someone else. And I wholeheartedly believed it because it had that kind of news headline type thing over it.
Was it the sun?
And it was posted on someone's story as if to be like, guys, look at, like, you know, this is happening. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it was only later that someone showed it to me again, and it just said AI in the what's the word in the description?
Also,
been off Instagram so long I don't even know the terminology.
I feel like also with social media, it's so taxing in a way that you don't feel like you can generate, like for me in some ways, like I don't feel like I can generate my own opinion on certain things anymore, especially like I'm a TikTok fiend, like I'm not going to deny, but like if I'm scrolling and I see a video that is, I don't know, even slightly controversial, like you go straight to the comments to see what everyone else is saying, and sometimes you even see a comment that says, did everyone go straight to the comments? So like you just have it's just very like you just have to try and like separate yourself from that sometimes, and that's why I think going to the cinema is really nice, because it's like a very it's isolating in its own way. That's very, very nice and refreshing.
Cinema propaganda
And
Letterboxd. The moral of this episode is go to the cinema.
Yeah, I went to the cinema on Wednesday by myself.
Really? What'd you see?
Going to the
It was a
cinema
bad movie,
alone
though,
is,
guys.
to be fair, going to the cinema alone is just like
It's
a
really
really
nice.
fun
Underrated.
experience.
It's really
I
nice.
love
You know what? I
so
can't
much.
do the horror films in the
No.
cinema. Oh
I
my
did
God.
that.
I went to go
No,
see
no.
Weapons alone.
I saw 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple
Oh,
in the
yeah.
cinema the other day.
Was
and
it
I
good?
Yeah, I thought it was good. But also like my friends were like, no, that was rubbish, and I was like, well, it just wasn't. No, it was really good, wasn't it? But that's like the effect of the cinema. I can go to see any old shit, and I'll think like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, because like it's sometimes I love it when a director says when a film comes out, like sometimes they don't care, but sometimes they say like you have to see this in the cinema, and I'm like, okay, I trust you, I'm there.
Yeah. I love the cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
to
what
the
other
cinema,
films do we think is culturally relevant, guys?
Loads and loads and loads, really.
Yeah. But see, the thing is, I feel like it's like I would love to watch more films from different cultures and languages.
Yeah.
But first of all, I don't know where to begin, because there's so much, and each sort of culture or country has their own film history, and it can go so far back. And it's just like, where do you even start? What do I pick?
Yeah, I think that's why I fell in love with film festivals, because I hadn't gone I hadn't gone to any ever in my life until I came to uni here, and it's kind of like really awkward because I go alone most times as well. But it's like if you just show up and you sit down and you watch like I don't know like 15 short films of like 2 hours in a row, it is really overwhelming. But like you just get to like be exposed to these really like niche and potentially very like things that are just like overlooked, and they're like curated for you to an extent, and like it might feel a bit inaccessible, but like that's like I feel like a good entry point. You just
And
go
that
into
kind
it
of
not knowing anything.
That kind
and
of
you
is
get
the point as well, that you're not just changing the content that you're watching, you're changing the lens with which you view them through.
Mm,
You know,
that's true.
like.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, that's so pretentious.
No, that's
But like,
true.
I mean, it is, isn't it? Like you're trying to like move away from a Eurocentric lens. Like you have to like. You know.
But I think film festivals are actually really interesting in terms of like the films you see at film festivals might, like a lot of the films I've seen, yeah, it's so important to go to these film festivals because a lot of the time they don't actually get distribution for years and years after. And that is something to be said about, like, yeah, a Eurocentric lens. Like,
And it's just really
the word
special.
lens itself is so, like, ugh.
I know. I was like, ooh.
Lens.
Yeah, it's really special. Like you might not, like no one else might be able to see this for a while, and so you can have like a shared memory or an experience or an emotion with like, I don't know, like 50 or 60 other people who's like in the cinema with you, and like knowing that is like very special.
That is a really beautiful way of phrasing it. Yeah, I also think if, for example, we're used to like the Hollywood conventions of film and that's what we're taught in film class, it's whenever you like start looking at films from different cultures, they most likely will be following different structures which are conventional to their own film history, and therefore you have to look at it at a different lens because you have to understand that this is the convention, which is entirely different from the convention that you're used to, for example.
So morals of the story are: go to the cinema, go to film festivals,
We love the cinema.
get off Instagram,
And free Palestine.
free Palestine, please.
Yeah, we love the cinema, and you guys should love the cinema as well.
Go with a friend or go by yourself.
Yeah, it's a shared experience, or it can be a personal experience, and yeah, it can really help get you out of, yourself.
It's really my idea of touching grass is often just going to the cinema. You
No,
go
that's so
outside to
real.
go back inside.
No, because genuinely, I think like in the summer I went to the cinema like 8 times. Like I'm not even kidding.
Literally.
Like I went all the time.
It's so good.
It's
Anyway.
yeah, it's really fun, and I think yeah.
Cool.
Also, if you cry in the cinema, no one can see you.
It's dark.
But they can hear you.
That's true. That is true.
They can see you when the lights come up.
Yeah,
and
that's so true.
If I ever cry
That's
in
okay.
if I ever cry in the cinema, I'm crying 4 hours later.
No,
It
that
takes
is
a while.
That's strength. That's like a skill. I can do
Yeah.
that.
No, that is yeah.
But yeah.
Thanks for listening. Sail away on the 7 frequencies.
Woo!